Are we live? Welcome to everybody to the Engineering Committee meeting at 4:30 p.m. I'd like to call the meeting to order, and please stand for the pledge. Let me begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Is there anybody online? So is there any changes to the agenda?
No changes to the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda?
I second.
Motion carries. Public comments. So is there anybody online? And there's no public in here, so we will move on to number 3. Did you have any changes to the minutes?
No, I
Not a motion.
motion to approve the minutes.
Accepted. Minutes are approved. Item 4, OSD Recharge Study Project, and I think there's a lot of information in here on that.
I believe you found the static water level. I think it was on page 171. Is that,
541 feet?
yep, 541?
Yep, 541.2.
Yep.
And I noticed that their chromium 6 was 21, but I think that's a false reading, so.
I do as well. There's some competing evidence in there. There was some other samples taken from the other one that were at 18, and they're 200 foot apart on the same property with the 3 part per billion difference. And there was only, I think, 7 or 10 casing volumes extracted from the well when the samples were taken, so I start to question that. I think those numbers are a little elevated past, because we have wells in the vicinity that are nowhere near that number.
Yes, but there's still some there.
Yeah.
So it's pretty obvious that moving to the northeast is the direction where chromium 6 diminishes. So,
Correct.
hence our new well. So is there anything, did you get a chance to look at all this information?
Yeah,
It's quite a bit.
It's a lot of
It's
information.
a lot, yeah.
You asked for it.
Yeah, I read it all. And,
So Sean, when you say they take samplings, do they take those total samplings and get an average to get the chromium 6 part per million?
No, it's how many casing volumes that they evacuate before samples taken. California State Resources give a general guideline of you run a well 15 minutes. That's a general guidance. There's conflicting. Personally, we don't sample within the hour. We run, because that's a true representative sample. Wells don't turn on and off every 15 minutes. You blow them up real quick. Wells run or they're off. So you either sample static or you sample running, depending upon what you're trying to sample for. So it's a representative sample. That is what the essence of a grab sample is. It's a representative sample of what's being pumped.
Okay.
So our guidance is, my standard operating procedure is 1 hour minimum.
So with if those chromium levels are close to being accurate, how does that affect the desired ever recharge basin in that area? Is it going to reduce the amount of chromium by dilution?
Yes.
But do you think that there's an issue that we should research further with? Maybe do some additional sampling to find out if those are accurate numbers, because that's a pretty high number.
The aqueduct water they'd be using to recharge does not contain heavy metals, in particular hexavalent chromium. It would dilute the current levels there. So it's not going to concentrate them, it'll dilute them, benefiting our wells to the north and to the west, namely 10, 11, 12, 14, which would not be a bad thing to have some dilution occur in those hexachrome levels.
unless they're leaching it into the system.
Unless they start leaching it down into the porous material that we pull from.
That's always the question. Did a study over in Yucca Valley, and we had suggested an area to put a recharge basin from the pipeline that Mojave built over there. And they decided to put it right in the middle of town and immediately leached extremely high nitrates right into the basin and had to build a nitrate removal plant. So it's certainly worth it at that amount to because they did take some samples as they went down, and that will give them some idea of what will leach into the water, but it's certainly something that should be brought up to them. We don't want stuff being leached into our aquifer that could contaminate it.
Certainly.
Anything else on
Yeah.
the OSD recharge study project?
Yeah, if I can just add, Mojave Water Agency, they went out to an RFP on the project on September 1st. All the bids were due in, I think, the 9th last week, and they'll have interviews on September 1st for the recharge basin.
For what, construction of a recharge
The
basin?
recharge basin, yes. They have a notice of selection by the end of December, per se. Also to probably expedited their project with the new ruling for Joshua trees, and it kind of impacts our project at the good side. I think there is no holdup or a costly penny to kind of remedy the issues with the Joshua trees. There is a cost, and there is still a study to be done, revised on the one that was prepared by Randy Arnold for our project. We're going to have a revision for our project, as well as the Mojave project for the recharge basin, because they got Joshua trees they got to mitigate.
So they're going to build a recharge basin. Again, I think the district really needs to look into actual OSD production numbers, because with both dairies now not producing, the cattle are gone, the fields are gone. We need to look at those numbers, because I really think that we're at or below safe yield numbers when you look at return flows, which everybody out here is septic, including Sheep Creek, which, although their water is not recorded for OSD, it does percolate into OSD. So if we can get together the production numbers and for both districts, and then Tom Darden did a return flow study. I don't know what Mojave uses, but I know he came up with an estimated number, and we should also get what Mojave thinks would be return flows. A typical house around here that has a couple of trees, it's got to be at least 50% or somewhere around 40-50% returns. So if we can make some calculations and look at that number, I'd like to have this ready before the water master goes to the judge in what, April?
Yeah, April, May.
April or May?
There's a workshop that's held by Mojave.
So if we
that we've
have some hard
attended.
numbers, I'd like to
Yeah.
see what those are before then, so that we can bring them to either the TAC or whatever meeting and show what we found.
Sure,
Because I think we're going to be surprised at what the actual consumption is from the basin.
Yeah, the water year ends in October, so.
September
Should be
30
by-
is now the new end of the water year. So
Yeah.
all reporting is supposed to be October 1 to September 30.
And so that's when they'll start reaching out to the districts for our numbers and everybody else's that
Okay,
are.
so
that
so
have
they
water
would
rights.
have numbers for that water year sometime before the end of the year? Mojave will?
Yeah,
So then we can get that number, if we can get the production data from, we have our own production data, if we can get Sheep Creek's production data, and then make some calculations on return flows, I'd like to see where we're at. Anything else on West Day Recharge Study Project?
Nothing more to report.
Any other comments?
So when you say return flows, are you talking about individual houses and the,
Yeah,
The
so
water
we're all on
returns
septic.
back,
So
right.
everything that goes into the septic,
leaches out?
well, no, it return flows.
Okay.
It leaks through gravity. Let's see, what was his name? The USGS guy, he did the study in Oro Grande Wash of a recharge. You remember that in Oro Grande Wash down here? Remember USGS was doing there was a rig down
Peter-
there?
Peter something.
Anyways, and they found out that once it wets all the way down to the water table, then it's a continuous flow. And that information is there. So basically, we've got 7,000 wet conduits. Leach lines, septic tanks and leach lines are wet all the time, basically. And so that is all return flows into the basin. And so if you subtract that from our production, the actual consumption is not what we produce, it's much less. So we need to calculate that.
Okay, thank you.
Peter Martin. And
Was it
John
Peter
Isbicki.
Martin?
Peter Martin and
It
John
wasn't
Isbicki.
Isbecki?
Yeah, Isbicki and Martin, both of
Okay,
them.
because they did the study and they wetted an area and they found out that it eventually wetted, and when it wetted down to the water table, when it soaked it all the way down, then there was a continuous flow going down. And that's what we have with every leach line septic tank pit in this area, so. Okay, I guess that's it for number 4. How about number 5, discussion regarding water systems?
The rehabilitation of well 1B is 100% complete. The well's back online. Our meter changeout program continues to advance forward. Cycle 5 has been completed in whole. 6,018, and that number derived today, are complete out of the 7,200. We have 1,182 left to change out. So we're at
About 85% complete.
about 83, 84% complete. Well 14's production for September, we pumped 0.3 acre foot for samples. Brings us to an annual total of 7.19 acre foot at $1,000.55 per replacement per acre foot. Our service line replacement program, we're at 24 for the calendar year, 11 for the fiscal year. The outfitting and equipping of Mountain Well is complete. The electric is online as of Monday. We're just waiting for our sanitary engineer to finish up our permit amendment. And well 15, there's some photos in our packet.
Yeah, where is that?
It's just below the fill station data for the year to date for September, bringing us to just shy of 4.5 million gallons served, with an accumulated revenue total of 75,000 and change. And down below is the pedestal that was poured for the 15 discharge. With pumped waste isn't in that photo, but the pumped waste is done. All the discharge is complete. Our VFD drive lands November 1st. The building goes up November 3rd. We're on target to have this on by Christmas. Our Edison contract was approved. It's substantially less, extremely substantially less than we had initially budgeted, due to some credit and some power poles failing their engineering load calcs. So that was really good news for the district. Okay, and
The little pad on the side, well, it's not little, but is that for electrical?
yeah, so that empty pad with the conduit sticking up, that
Yeah,
is
it's
going to be the
electrical
motor
pad.
control center, the chlorination station, the transfer switch house, and the Edison panel housing.
Okay, so will that be put into some kind of structure, a house?
Correct.
Yeah, okay. And then you're just gonna put one of the
A lean-to shade event.
shade
Yeah.
things around?
We did experience last week, for the 6th time, unfortunately, the 16-inch coming from well 14 into the distribution system up 263rd had a catastrophic break again. What's happening is the 16-inch pipe is splitting on a linear plane from bell to spigot. The entire bell basically blew apart. We contacted our supply manufacturer. It's not just us. A lot of people with C900 in the 16-inch range. This is a known problem. I'm not going to say it's a manufacturing defect, but it is. This is a very common issue on 16-inch PVC pipe. So how do we fix it, and how much does it cost? We came up with a plan rather than come to ask the board for $750,000 for some more pipe. Not the most palatable plan. With a hybrid PRV station, where this well discharges in to the distribution system, is about 4,400 linear foot. We can eliminate and mitigate about half of the pipeline problem with a hybrid PRV at Sacramento and Piñon Hills Road. This PRV will have PRVs facing in both directions. So imagine the well coming in from one direction. We'll put a pressure relief, pressure sustaining valve, so when the well fires, it allows that water to discharge into the distribution system, and it has a check feature. So when the well shuts off, that valve goes closed, and on the other side, feeding the homes that are off of these lines, pressure reducing valve. So the pressure will only elevate to the 140, 150 it is right now when the well's on. And any other time, we set the pressure 50, 60 PSI, normal operating, by virtue of a hybrid PRV. That's what we can come up with. It's the most budget-friendly, least laborious option that there's available to us. That cost is going to be less than, right around $20,000. We've got feelers out for materials right now. We have some limited materials on hand in inventory. We would need to get these specialized reducing valves. They're common, they're made by Clay Valve. They're used all the time, just we don't have those particular sizes in stock. So I can bring that to the next engineering committee meeting and or board once we get kind of more handle on materials on that.
This is for well 14?
Correct. That's the inflow line from well 14 coming from 263rd down La Mesa Road. Don, am I allowed to talk about the settlement that occurred on that due to that line failure?
Absolutely.
If the committee recalls, I believe 2 years ago, we experienced a catastrophic failure on that line again that actually caused some damage to a customer's home and yard, and a settlement was reached with that particular customer, but this has been a liability. This last line happened to blow right next to 263rd. It was very close to the aqueduct. So we do want to minimize the pressure on that line. I feel like that'll help tremendously to reduce these leaks. And they're not leaks in the sense that we know it, the pipe's exploding, for the lack of a better term. It's literally just kind of blowing up underground.
Is it just when the well is kicked on?
No,
No?
no, we haven't run well 14 since July.
Yeah, you haven't been
We're in-
running it.
Yeah, there's like 160 pounds continuously on that line, even when the well's not running, plus the surge when it does go on. So by reducing it down to about 50 PSI, it'll stay that way until the well kicks on, which might be once a year, twice a year.
Yeah, that's only a couple times.
Yeah, so that should, may not be a permanent fix, but at least it buys us a number of years before we have to go in and replace that line.
And even alluding on that topic further, with well 15 coming online, hopefully by Christmas, but certainly before next summer, that will be, well 14 and well 15 are going to be respectively competing for the largest producer, but we still need our largest producer when our max day demand's calculated, which we can call well 14, and it's just simply not used because we're not going to need it because well 15 is going to be around. So that's why this hybrid solution is so favorable to staff's opinion. It really will help mitigate the pressure along that pipeline, and it's a very budget-friendly option.
Yeah, that's 160 pounds, that's a lot of pressure.
Just wanted to bring that up. Our
And you're not experiencing this problem with anything else, it's just
Correct.
because that well has that 16-inch.
it's kind of like cars and manufacturers. Certain cars are known to have certain kind of problems. Pipe's kind of in that same realm. 16-inch PVC, kind of known for this. It's
Yeah,
not the most
that's a
favorable
little,
pipe.
that's a pretty big for PVC, 16 inch.
Anytime you go 12-inch or larger, ductile iron is
Should be
the
steel,
much
yeah.
more preferred material.
Yeah. Who put that in, the county?
Yeah.
They put a 16 inch PVC line in. Awesome.
Our 10-year tank maintenance contract, we're getting into washout season. We have those scheduled for the end of the month, getting started. Water quality, nothing really to update on that. And with that, I don't really have any other updates. Happy to answer any questions.
You have any other questions? You see the pictures of the new well?
Yeah, yeah. I was there when there was nothing there.
Yeah, I was there before.
So it's pretty cool to see something
When there
there
was
now.
literally nothing.
Nothing there,
We're
yeah.
very happy to bring that. Something exists where there was nothing before. It's
Yeah.
definitely coming along. Chris and the guys have done an amazing job. And everything you see there, less the concrete finishing, because none of us are concrete artists, have been done in-house. Yeah, and well 17 is complete. We're just awaiting the, our operating permit amendment from our sanitary engineer, but it's, and then we do have a little bit of chemical treatment for it, but it's all built and ready to rock.
So in order to put 15 in, we agreed to put a meter in for the landowner there, correct?
I believe that's correct.
Yeah, that's correct, but
So
until
is
he
that in the
requests,
process of,
until he requests this water service, then we'll have an easement on that parcel that we've acquired from him.
you're waiting for him to
Yeah.
request it?
Yeah, we're not gonna initiate
Okay.
a service fee on him if he's
Just
not
wanted to
using it.
remind you that that was there, so.
Yeah.
If you look at the first photo where the mini excavator's in it, and you can see it better in the last photo where the gentleman's been over, the pump control valve there is unique. This is a valve that would act much like the one we were just talking about in that hybrid situation. That is a pressure relief, pressure sustaining with a check feature. That's exactly the same valve as I'm proposing using in that hybrid PRV for well 14. So by virtue of that valve, we can control the pressure in that line to accommodate that gentleman's meter.
Okay. I just remembered then, I was hoping that you were setting things up so that it could be,
And if the
a
district,
connection could be made right there.
we are, and if the district ever chooses and the board allows and chooses that we continue the expansion of our well production fields to the north by northwest to well 15, that valve also allows us to set the discharge pressure kind of in case of future growth.
Excellent.
How's that Mini X working out for you?
That Mini X, Chris, you want to go for that one?
Just working out real good. Love it.
We've heard it's the best piece of equipment. We've heard it from a couple guys in the field. It's the best thing we've ever gotten in the field.
Good, because the more we can do in-house, the more experience the crews get and the cheaper, less expensive it is.
Absolutely.
Okay, that is the updates on the maintenance and repairs and well conditions. Then we will move to item 6, which is Smithson Springs.
Our crews did get up and repair the road, so the flows were recorded on July 28th, 4 gallons upstream weir, 2 gallons downstream, and then flows were recorded yesterday at 3.5 gallons per minute upstream and 2 gallons per minute downstream. And there's a tremendous amount of growth happening up there to the detriment of everyone's allergies.
Yeah.
Those flows were recorded, but it's pretty rough.
Yeah, there was a little extra water this year, so I'm sure it's filled in. Okay, any other questions or comments?
No.
No? Item 7, state regulations update.
Oh, Jen, if you want to add to that.
There has been some development. I'm going to put together a presentation regarding it, but it's not ready this month. Regarding our water use objective and the developments with that.
Okay. So are you going to put it together for for this committee or for the board?
It's going to depend on whether or not on some things with the consultant, the MWA hired, but it will be shortly.
Okay. All right, thank you. Item 8, review of current projects. We talked about well 15. I think you said 17 is now online, or?
No, it's not online to the distribution system. We're still awaiting our permit amendment to our operating permit from our state sanitary engineer. We have scheduled, I think, next week? Next Thursday for our sanitary inspection. And he pretty much has the permits drawn up, so it shouldn't be but another few weeks.
Okay. Tank 6A is listed here.
Yes, met with the, who did we meet with? The cultural engineer. Well, survey was done several weeks ago, and we have scheduled a biologist to be up there as well, I think the next coming week. So the CEQA is moving along, so we're kind of in a preliminary design stage of our tank site, so.
Were there any, what's the right word, conditions on the funds that we received for that?
We don't have any idea yet. So we were approved as a project
Yeah.
to move forward through the appropriations process, and that one's going to go through HUD, and it's going to be a long time till we get any of the contract information for the conditions.
Okay, because is that for the appropriations that the Congress is working on now for this year?
That is correct.
Okay.
And
So
they,
we're not going to know
gonna be
too
a
much for a while. Okay.
So it could be in December next year when we have a contract.
Okay. Okay, yeah. Steve, any other
No,
comments?
thank you.
Item 9, staff report.
Not too much passed on what we reported, other than some of the action items from the prior meeting were addressed. The back page, we have that hotspot map, titled Hotspots. You can kind of see that the red triangle is the hotspot that's were reported, and kind of follows that floodplain that cuts kind of right through the middle of the district. Happy to answer any questions if we have any on the hotspot map. But George and Tony do an awesome job. GIS, however they create these maps, but that is such a helpful tool. As reports come in, we plot it, and we have two different colors. Red's not done and black is done. So it really, did I get that backwards?
Oh, you're good.
It really helps the field in support from engineering, just makes us that much more efficient. And I think Tony and George deserve a large kudos there. Our hydrographs, that were also an action item. Jen does an amazing job putting those in the packet and
Yeah,
keeping
the
those up to date
hydrographs.
for us. The Mojave Water Agency monitoring wells are in there to address another action item. And then we have an action item. Just wanted to touch base with the committee if the presentation on hex chrome is still being requested, being presented to the board. I believe we've done that. We did it a year or two ago. I think we did one on the chromium budgetary update. It would be something along kind of the same lines, kind of a snapshot of where the district's at on chromium to date.
Yeah, I was just curious, the projects and the costs.
Okay.
And then the estimated time for the payoff of it,
Okay.
so that we have information to the public. Just, I like a yearly update on that, so that, because we've had people come in and say, this is gonna stay on here forever. So
Right.
I like to have at least once a year, a small presentation to say, well, we're this and this, and then that will be it, and
Okay.
at some point, yeah.
Be happy to bring that before the board.
Okay,
If I just want to add, Tony wished he was here to kind of walk through the process of that, that hotspot map. But just a little background, the contours, we had received that probably about 14 years ago from Mojave Water Agency. And there's a couple ways to kind of create your digital terrain model, which is your DTM, to give you that flow path. So Tony was excited to use that DTM that was created in Arc Pro to create that flow path. So we worked through it, kind of had an understanding of what to look for and what to consider an anomaly. But he said he apologized he couldn't be here, but he's excited about this.
Well, he can give us an update at our next meeting.
Yeah, so. No, so we have 100 and I think we have 20-foot contours that we use. So this is something that we had on file for a little bit. So we're happy to use it in this manner, especially in Arc Pro.
Mhm.
I assume the stream order analysis is based on flow, 1, 2, 3, 4? Is that what that means? It says stream order analysis, 1, 2, 3, 4, and there's different colored.
Oh, yeah, I see.
Lines.
Yeah, so you got major stream
Okay.
down to a flow line. Blue line,
Gotcha.
you might find a USGS map.
Okay,
A blue line,
And the big ones are
a big blue line and a little blue line.
yeah.
Yeah, and then, of course, we have the Sheet Creek Wash,
Yeah.
which is very defined. And the one that migrates over from the Horseshoe Canyon Wash into the Oro Grande
Okay.
or Fremont. You don't really see it on this map, but
Yeah,
further to the north
that's
of Fremont. They call it waterways of the U.S., anything that heads over to the river. It's going to take a bit to get water over there if there is a leak.
It's dry, but it's,
It is, yeah.
just because the topography says there's something there doesn't mean there's
Yeah.
water flowing.
Yeah. So Fremont Wash takes you all the way into Hellendale, cuts through Hellendale, the community of Hellendale, into the Mojave River. So it kind of starts at.
Right at
El
Hellendale,
Mirage.
correct?
Yeah.
Right near your house.
Yeah. Yeah, about 3 houses down.
Yeah,
It cuts right between North Lake and South Lake.
right. Yep.
Okay.
Okay, so that is, let's see, we've got action items. We had the monitoring wells, the hotspot map, the Smithson Springs flows, the hydrographs, which are very interesting, and the chromium 6. So it's listed here to the board in October, so that would be maybe November.
Yeah, let's do the
Just
first.
an
first
update
meeting
in November, that would be fine. Just an update, just to, so we have it in the public discourse. Okay, current meeting, it was basically the Oeste production and return flows. So if we can consolidate that data for our next engineering meeting, and was there anything else? No? Did you have anything else?
No, that was it.
All right, setting agenda for the next meeting. I think everything can stay on for now because it's all in process. So we can leave, I think we can leave the agenda as is for now.
Yeah,
No
I agree.
problems?
Nope.
Don, how would you feel about adding a bullet point under number 8? Because the budget year 25-26.
Bullet under
Think it's
8
too
on
soon?
review.
It's a little soon,
Okay.
just because we don't have the last one online yet.
Okay.
But I think within maybe 6 months or so, it's probably a
Okay.
good time to.
Okay, after, I guess after the budget process, then we can start looking at that.
It's not in the budget till 20.
It's a couple of years out, I
Yeah.
think.
It's 24-25 or 25-26. I'll
Yeah.
have to
Okay.
refresh on the 10-year
Yeah,
CIP.
I think a little more time is worthwhile on that.
George Sequa's taken 9 to 12 months now. That's the only reason I mention it, because we're gonna potentially losing a year just to Sequa.
Well, we can put it on there and talk about it, but first thing we need to do is determine, you know, where do we want to put it? Are we going to tie it in? Are we tying in the dairy? So that would be part of the, maybe part of the discussion that could be had.
Would you be comfortable if we had that bullet point just to start
Why not?
getting it on the radar? Okay.
Sure, why not?
Yeah, I mean, originally, we talked about putting it on the Sheep Creek property, but we should reflect on the quality that we got from well 15 as far as chromium-6 and things, so that's something that we should discuss. Okay, we can add that as a bullet point review for our next well. Is there anything else? And there's nobody online, correct? Okay. If there's nothing else, with that, we can adjourn at 5:05 PM. Thank you.